We have this idea of innovation as some kind of lightning strike, this rare, mysterious flash of genius that only hits a lucky few. But what if I told you it's not magic? What if it's actually a skill, a muscle that you can train and build? Today, we're going to dive into how you can turn that random spark into a reliable, powerful tool.
I mean, that's the big one, isn't it? When you're staring down a challenge that feels like it has no solution, where'd even start? Well, the secret might not be what you think. It's often not about getting more resources, but about getting creative with what you already have.
Picture this, the Apollo 13 mission. There's an explosion, the spacecraft is crippled, and the astronauts are in deep, deep trouble. Back on Earth, engineers had to figure out how to build a carbon dioxide filter using only the random junk they knew was on the ship. We're talking duct tape, plastic bags, cardboard. They literally had to fit a square peg in a round hole to save lives. Those intense limits didn't stop them. They forced one of the most brilliant solutions in history. That, right there, is the power of a good constraint.
Okay, so before we can even think about finding a solution, we have to be 100% sure we're solving the right problem. It sounds super obvious, I know, but this is the exact step where most incredible efforts go completely off the rails. So let's look at a couple of simple but really powerful tools for this.
First up is the 5 whys. And yeah, it's pretty much as simple as it sounds. Imagine your car won't start. You ask, why? Well, the battery's dead. But that's just a symptom, right? So you ask again, why is the battery dead? Turns out, the alternator isn't working. Why? The alternator belt broke. See? Now we're getting somewhere. By just repeatedly asking why, you dig past the surface level stuff and find the actual root cause you need to fix.
Now, if you want to get a little more analytical, there's something called function analysis. This is all about breaking a system, could be a product, a service, anything, down into its individual parts. And for each piece, you ask 2 basic questions. What does it do, and what does it cost? By looking at that function-to-cost ratio, you can immediately spot the parts that are super expensive but don't add much value. It's a fantastic way to find waste and focus your energy on what really matters.
Okay, so once we're feeling good about the problem we're trying to solve, it is time to generate ideas. And I mean a lot of them. The goal here isn't to find the one perfect idea right away. No. It's to cast the widest net possible and just see what we can come up with.
So we're going to start with the golden rules of brainstorming, from the guy who invented it, Alex Osborne. The most important rule of all, separate the act of creating ideas from the act of judging them. For now, defer all judgment. No idea is a bad idea. In fact, you should encourage the wildest, craziest ideas you can think of. Build on what other people say with a yes and kind of attitude. And really, the big one is go for quantity. You want a mountain of ideas, because somewhere in that mountain, you're going to find a few gems.
All right, now for a really fun, rapid-fire tool to get your brain going, Scamper. It's an acronym, basically a creativity checklist. Let's run through it. First up, S is for substitute. What part of your problem can you swap out for something else? A perfect example is plant-based meats substituting for traditional beef in a burger. Simple substitution.
Next, C is for combine. What can you merge together? I mean, the smartphone is the ultimate example, right? It combined a phone, a camera, a music player, and a web browser into a single amazing device.
A is for adapt. What idea that's already out there can you borrow and adapt for what you're doing? You don't always have to reinvent the wheel. Look at how other industries solve problems like yours and see if you can tweak their solution to fit.
M is for modify. Can you change some attribute? Make it bigger, smaller, stronger, a different color? Just think about the evolution of the Coke bottle, from a standard glass bottle to that iconic contour shape, and now we have mini cans and giant 2-liter bottles. All modifications. Put to other uses. How else could you use this thing? Here's a great story. Play-Doh. It was originally invented to be a wallpaper cleaner, but then someone realized it could be an absolutely fantastic toy for kids. Talk about finding a new use.
E is for eliminate. Oh, this one is so powerful. What can you get rid of? What can you simplify? Think about modern furniture design. It's all about eliminating ornamentation. Or Twitter. It eliminated length, forcing everyone to be concise. Sometimes the best innovation is subtraction.
And finally, R is for reverse. What happens if you do the exact opposite of what's expected? Instead of customers coming to a restaurant, what if the restaurant came to them? Well, that's the whole idea behind food delivery services. It's all about flipping your assumptions completely upside down.
Okay, another fantastic tool is the 6 thinking hats. This is a brilliant way to have a productive conversation about an idea. Instead of everyone arguing from their own point of view, the entire group puts on the same hat at the same time. So, for a few minutes, everyone focuses only on the facts, the white hat. Then you switch, and everyone focuses only on the risks, the black hat. It lets you explore an idea from every single angle without all the usual arguments and ego getting in the way.
So we've got our brainstorming tools for generating a ton of ideas. But what about those really, really tough problems? The ones that need a genuine breakthrough. For that, we need to go a little deeper. We need techniques that are designed to shatter our assumptions. This brings us to something called TRIZ. It stands for the Theory of Inventive Problem Solving. Which sounds intense, I know, but the core idea is simple and brilliant. It was developed by analyzing thousands and thousands of patents, and it found that almost every major invention was about solving a fundamental contradiction. You know, things like, we need this car to be stronger, but we can't add any more weight, or we need this process to be faster, but we can't use any more energy. TRIZ gives you a systematic way to solve exactly these kinds of trade-offs.
A related concept is systematic inventive thinking, or SIT. And I love this one because it completely flips the old saying about thinking outside the box. SIT says the most powerful creativity actually happens inside the box. One of its key techniques is subtraction. You take a product, you list its most essential parts, and then you imagine removing one of them. What if a bike didn't have handlebars? What if a phone didn't have a screen? It sounds crazy, but it forces you to rethink a product from the ground up.
But you know, sometimes the most brilliant engineer in the world isn't a person at all. It's nature. For billions of years, evolution has been solving the toughest problems in design, materials, and efficiency. We call this idea biomimicry. For example, a Swiss engineer was taking a walk in the woods one day, and he came back with his dog, and they were both covered in these tiny, annoying little burrs.
So he got curious. He put one under a microscope, and he saw this incredible system of tiny little hooks. And by copying that natural design, he invented Velcro. From gecko feet inspiring new adhesives to bird wings inspiring aircraft design, nature is basically an infinite library of genius solutions just waiting for us to look.
So, we have all these amazing individual tools, right? The 5 Whys, Scamper, TRIZ. But how do they all fit together? It's not enough to have a toolbox, you need a blueprint. We need a process, a framework to guide us from the very beginning all the way to a finished solution.
And for many people, that framework is design thinking. It's a 5-stage process that puts people at the absolute center. You always start with empathy, truly, deeply understanding the person you're trying to help. From there, you define their core problem. Then and only then do you ideate using all those tools like brainstorming and Scamper. And then this is crucial, you build a quick, cheap prototype, and you test it with real people to get feedback. It's a loop. You test, you learn, you iterate. It's not a straight line to the finish.
So if there's one big thing to take away from all of this, it's that innovation is not some mystical gift that you're either born with or you're not. It's a discipline. It's a collection of tools and frameworks and mindsets that you can learn, that you can practice, and that you can apply systematically to almost any problem. It just takes practice, persistence, and a little bit of structured creativity.
And that really just leaves us with one final thought. You now have the toolkit. You have the process. So what problem in your work, in your community, maybe even in your own life, what problem that once seemed impossible are you going to solve first?